I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night. Guys, I have a story and a half I need to share with you guys. It's breaking right now around the world. And yes, it will affect a lot of us. I see it affecting us in a positive, non destructive way, as the people behind this that are trying to pull the trigger on this are trying to disturb things which have already been severely disturbed. So let's take a look at what's happening. This is breaking everywhere. China scores victory as 15 Asian nations sign world's biggest free trade deal. So they're doing a big free trade deal, and you got your typical suspects there, like Australia and New Zealand. We got. I'm just trying to read this little thing. We'll find out in the article there. Vietnam's in there. Laos is in there. Myanmar is in there. Japan, Korea. Wow, I can't believe Japan's in there. Korea, Indonesia, Philippines. So there's a lot of countries that. So what's going to happen? So here's the deal. They're obviously China's desperate, severely desperate right now. If you're looking at the markets right now, if you're looking at the markets and looking at what's happening, even 200 billion yuan, I think, won't smoothen out things in the Chinese markets right now with their bail-ins. So, and with Chinese bailing out a ton of banks that are faltering. So how is this going to help China? Well, it's going to help China by pissing off the West, or let's just say America. Canada is full. If Canada could join this, they'll join this tomorrow. Canada's that type of, they will join this. They'll be the first. They'll fly. The great leader will fly in there, and he will learn the language and sign all the documents and stuff like that. But unfortunately, here it's to affect the United States directly for obviously the trade wars they've been having over the last year and a half. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership accounts for about 1/3 of the world's population and economy. That's great. They could keep it. We don't like in consideration to Asia. We have almost no like America's populated, but the rest of the Americas aren't heavily populated. Like there's probably more people living in Vietnam than there is in Canada. There's more people living in the Philippines, let's say, than some other countries here in the West. You know what I'm saying? So that's okay. I think we could manage. So this is not as bad as a thing that we should play it out to be or mark it up to be, right? Agreement paves the way for lower tariffs, less red tape, and post-pandemic growth, observers say. So it says it does not include the U.S. We knew that. So it does not include the U.S. China scored a victory. So is this a victory for China, or is it just another nail in their coffin? Because if the consumers, or what's left of the consuming class in the West, decides, minus Australia and New Zealand, decides that, okay, well, screw you, we're just start making our own stuff, China's in trouble. You know what I'm saying? On Sunday, as 15 Asian Pacific nations signed the world's biggest free trade pact, sealing agreements that excludes the United States and extends Beijing's economic sway in the region. The realization of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP) comes after years of negotiations. This was I could tell you this wasn't years of negotiations. This was a couple of months, maybe even a couple of weeks. So we got to pay to read the rest of the article. So let's go over here. So I'm going to go back into another article that's discussing this from a different perspective. Now let's take a look at this. Now why would Australia, let me put emphasis on the Australia. Why would they do this? Why would they sign a deal with the enemy when they know that China has bought a ton of real estate, basically creating a massive amount of homelessness across Australia? They've been leaving tons of property. They're estimating 1 million empty properties, investor owned. I don't think so. It's more than 1 million. You're looking at 3 to 5 million. Incredible amounts of laundered money through casinos and through shadow flipping and shadow selling through homes. Why would, and then China, now here's okay, Mike, man, that stuff, that's all political. That stuff, we could work around that stuff, Mike. Yeah, why don't you work around this? China-Australia relations import. So China's banning Australia's copper sugar expected after blocks on lobster, timber, and barley. China banned imported timber from Queensland and barley shipments from another Australian grain exporter on Friday, with copper and sugar to follow this week. Australia rock lobster shipments were also delayed in Shanghai at the weekend at the latest date. Trade escalation between Beijing and Canberra. So here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal with this. Why would Australia even entertain this? Why would they even sign for that? Why would they? Like, yes, they're in the middle of nowhere. Basically, they're without Asia. They're alone, right? Well, Cuba was alone for like 50 years. They did. I've been to Cuba many times. It was one of the safest countries. I'm not going to go there, but I'm saying, like, see. Australia needs to be the tough guy on the block. Oh, you want to sanction us? Okay, go to hell. We're never going to sell you this stuff ever again. And all the illegal lands or all whatever you guys did in this, with a stroke of a pen, it's all back. It's all ours now. Unless you prove that this wasn't laundered or illegal money, then that's going to go in the courts, and that could take decades. But that's okay. It shows that Australia has a backbone, that it doesn't have to worry about what China says and does, and have to be on like walking on eggshells. Why? Just say, okay, you don't want to buy this stuff? Go to hell. And then you know what? When your ships come into our docks in Sydney and all your stormtroopers come out of the battleships to buy up our baby formula and powdered milk, next time there'll be repercussions. You come in our country like that. You think I'm making this up? This happened in Australia about a year and a half ago. So let's look at our friends here at Zero Hedge. Tyler Jordan. It's not what you own. What you own ends up owning you. Remember? Okay. Nothing less than a major milestone in global economic history and a huge victory for China over the increasing U.S. regional hegemony has been realized on Sunday with the signing of the biggest free trade deal among 15 Asian Pacific countries, called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. The agreement was signed virtually during the annual summit. Oh, that's why they were on the TVs. Okay. Association of Southeast Asian nations, and effectively establishes the world's largest trading bloc that is expected to encompass almost 1/3 of all global economic activity, crucially without the United States. Now, see, I'm going to tell you a little side story here. Look at all the countries here: Japan, Korea. Japan's fed up with China. Okay, Taiwan apparently is not in here, so it's not part of this trade deal. I don't think Taiwan cares. South Korea's part of it. I could see that. Oh no, Taiwan's right here. I'm sorry. There's Taipei. I'm sorry. Taiwan apparently is in this trade deal, but Taiwan isn't. It doesn't say Taiwan here as a country. So let's count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 15. So, is it 15 countries? Yeah, okay. The reason why I'm saying this is because Taiwan is an independent country, but it's highlighted in blue, which is kind of weird. It's got its own national anthem, its own. I've been to Taiwan many times. I know this. I'm not making this up. Now, let me tell you one country that for some weird reason is not in it, and I made a phone call. And I called 2 people down there that would know the answer. And in this country, in this area, they actually speak Portuguese is the official language. And that's my first language. This country right here, you see my little glove is pointing here? You see that? That little white dot beside Indonesia, that's called Timor. East Timor, Timor-Leste. Now, let me tell you something about Timor-Leste. The reason why it's not part of this China deal is because even though Timor-Leste has one of the biggest oil reserves, they're no longer China wants nothing to do with Timor-Leste, but the reason why they don't want nothing to do is because Australia has been stealing their oil for the last 10, 20 years. So even though Australia's been pushing out its international water line further and further so they can get more oil from Timor. Timor has the oil reserves. They have all the oil. But China doesn't obviously see Timor as a country, so it goes to Australia and says, you guys keep getting us the oil from Timor and we're good, right? Because if Timor, I could bet you 100-1 with the China and Australia relations that Australia would have never been part of this. China would have said no to Australia if they were getting their oil from Timor. I'm not making this up. I'm thinking this is why. I made a phone call, asked, and I said, "How come you guys are not part of this?" He's like, "Hold on, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you from the guy from Dil, the capital of Timor. Well, he'll call you back on Skype. He calls me back on Skype. We're talking in Portuguese. Yeah, we went to the chamber. They didn't want to include this in this deal, and this deal's not years in the making. This is a couple of months old, like I said. And they told us that because Australia is taking our oil, they'd rather prefer to deal with Australia than directly with us. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how it works. I understand how that works. So let's keep going forward here. It's being further seen as a massive blow to 4 years, both Trump's and America First policy, and simultaneously the trade war and increasing attempts to convince other large regional powers like India to isolate China, though India has notably absent from the RCEP. So India wasn't part of this arcade. So now I was going to ask you guys in the comments to comment. You got this Indo-India Chinese border dispute up here. So why would India even look at China? It's like apparently shots were fired, 23 soldiers dead in the last couple of weeks. Why would India even look at China? So there's a lot more happening on this map than we're not being told, right? And why would even Australia and then New Zealand with all the dairy getting ripped off with dairy farmers and China coming in and buying up all their homes and leaving everything empty? Why would they even bother? Like, why would they even sign with this? So anyways, Trump's America First policy and simultaneous, that was a good policy, right? And then basically it's created disruptions, and we needed disruptions. We can't go on the way we've been going for the last, creating more debt. It's good. We're going to see a reset pretty soon. The trade pact involves ASEAN bloc member, including Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And additionally, their trade partners Australia, China, Japan, and New Zealand, and South Korea. China's Premier Li Keqiang was cited in a state media as hailing a victory against the protectionism, and the international media reports it is being called a coup for China, which the bloaster Chinese claims that it remains the champion of the globalization and a multilateral corporation. Sorry, blurred vision here for a sec. Anyway, so let me get into this here. So the problem is, it's really hard to trust. I wouldn't if any you got to make a deal. You got to make this deal with the. I'm not gonna do this. I would not want to do any deals with the backdoor deals and everything that's happening. Or let's say I wanted to buy this electronic pen. Okay, let's say it's an electronic pen. It's got a camera to film, a spy camera. You put it up here. It's made in China. Who's to say they put a backdoor on it so they could see what I'm seeing or see what I'm recording? And that's what I'm not understanding. The signing of the RCEP is not the only landmark achieved by East Asia Regional Corporation, but also a victory of multilateralism and free trade, Lee said, after it's been in negotiations for 8 years. So there it is. So India was the only country invited to the table, but didn't sign the deal. And then there's Taiwan, also not part of the deal. Yeah, Taiwan. I don't think Taiwan would want to be part of that deal. But if you look at this map, apparently China thinks Taiwan is part of China. So I'm not sure what's happening with that there too, right? Yet clearly this marks the final death knell for both Obama's so-called pivot to Asia and Trump's anti-Chinese decoupling initiatives. In the days leading up to the expected signing on Sunday, the major American networks were noticeably quiet about it. So I'm actually bringing this up because this is very important. And okay, let them do that. Let them do what they want, but just don't import from those people anymore. Leave them alone. Canada has everything it needs. It has the water. It's got the material. It's got the fabrication skills. We could build a factory. There's a couple of Portuguese still living in Canada that haven't been deported, or a couple of Europeans that could build factories and start building factories again and actually producing for ourselves once in a while. Why do we have to buy underwear from China? We could just buy it locally. Yet clearly this marks the final death. Okay, we got that. As the Wall Street Journal now forewarns, the deal signed Sunday increases high pressure Mr. Biden to deepen U.S. trade engagement in the Asia-Pacific region. He warned last year that if America doesn't write the rules of the road, China will and said would try to negotiate the TPP, but hasn't taken a firm position either way. So there it is, guys. I wanted to throw this out there, but then why they're destroying? China's destroyed a lot of countries when it comes to just filing. A lot of these global cities are have these astronomical bubbles put on them, and they're left empty. And let's look this up. Watch this, guys. So this is important. I got into an argument with a realtor the other day. He's telling me there's less than 10,000 empty units in California that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I told him, and I said, buddy, I don't know who you're talking to, but there's a lot more. So this is what's happening right across the world. Vacant homes are a global epidemic, and Paris is fighting it with a 60% tax. Let's go down to here. Look at all these cities with vacant homes. Toronto, people can't afford to live there. 100,000 empty homes. New York City is a blue state. 308,000 empty homes. And that's why people are mass exodusing. You have 308,000 units. Multiply that by 3. That's how many displaced people you have, right? Look at Los Angeles, 213. That's in Los Angeles. That's not in California. I mean, Los Angeles is in California. This is not LA County. This is Los Angeles. And they got these from non-hookups, from places that are not hooked up. So here it goes. Look at this. Runaway real estate speculation has been filing global capitals with vacant homes, creating artificial shortages in the world's most sought-after cities. So the typical Canadian doesn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to go buy 3 homes in Ireland. We can't do that. People with a lot of capita could do it, and a lot of people that have capita and then want to unload it and get it off their country shores, so their government doesn't know what they're up to. Then you start to see this pattern all over the world, right? Creating artificial shortages in the world's most sought-after cities. The shortage has made local homeowners wealthy overnight, but it comes at the cost of turning lively cities into empty shells. Vancouver's an empty shell. Sydney's an empty shell. Melbourne's an empty shell. It's going to get worse in Melbourne with the mass exodus. You got Vancouver, Toronto, even Alberta. The province of Alberta is turning into an empty shell. Not because of housing affordability, because of the drop in oil and the lack of jobs. But still, the shortage has made... So the city of Paris has decided it's had enough. It implemented in 2015 a foreign buyer's tax. They didn't get what the results they wanted, so now they're tripling it to 60%. So this is not good. 107,000 empty homes, representing 7.5% of all residential dwellings. So this is a lot to do with Chinese foreign investing. A lot of people say, "Oh, Mike, no, why would Greek people want to escape with their wealth out of Greece if they're living in a palatial home with a vineyard? Why would Italians want to leave Italy and they're living in a beautiful villa and this and that, and they have tons of wealth? Why would they leave? Why would Americans leave to go to these kind of, to cities that, it doesn't, guys, you got to call a spade, and this is what's happening. And it's crippling. It's crippled the world. It's crippled affordability levels. I could have easily stayed and lived in Vancouver. I had a very profitable business that's still profitable today. I could have stayed there. I sold my business. The problem was affordability. Now, affordability is coming. Then why are we signing pacts and deals? Why is Australia and all these countries signing pacts and deals? We read the article the other day. On trends in the housing market. Australia now, housing market is in a lot of trouble because foreign investors aren't coming as they expected them to. So you're telling me no one in Australia wants to own a home, raise a family, lay some roots, and have kids? Yeah, they do. But the problem is they can't afford to get into anything now. And the upper middle class is finished now. Middle class is going to be completely wiped by 2025. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I look forward to reading your comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you. I'll be reading your comments soon. Thank you.